topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Houston. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Hey, we've been doing this show for the last 16 years, and we have a community association law firm in Florida who's been with us for 15 years. And they have always done so well at the show. And I was getting letters from you going, how come you don't do anything on HOA and condo laws in Houston? We actually just did not have an opening until last year. We had an opening. I said, we are going to find one of the top community association law firms in Houston. And boy, God directed me in the right place. We found Lang and Associates. Let me welcome you to our expert attorney, Shannon Lang. Good morning, Shannon.
Morning, Steve. It's great to be back with you.
You have no idea how glad I am that we have you because, a lot of people didn't even know what community association law was. And what's so great about this show is there's residents, there's board members, there's management companies that can watch or listen to a show like this and learn so much. The information you provide, Shannon, is so valuable. But since we're getting so many new viewers and listeners, tell people about Lang & Associates.
Sure. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. We're a small law firm based in Houston. I started the firm about 11 years ago. After leaving a big law firm type of career, I got into community association law kind of by accident. I had a colleague who did it. Some clients followed her and to our firm, and it's just grown organically from there. Like a lot of your listeners, I wasn't aware of the broad scope of law that HOA and condo law covers, and I've found it to be, really rewarding. We get to work directly with homeowners and board members. Before I was a lawyer, I was a social worker, and I actually think that those skills are very useful in HOA law because so much of it is about managing personalities and, emotions run really high when people are dealing with their homes. So we find that coming to these HOA issues with kindness and empathy and a problem-solving mindset has gone a long way towards furthering our clients and enhancing stability in our communities.
We get so many people writing us with complaints. And what I've learned from you, if you're going to complain about your board, run for the board. Oh, yeah. Do something about it, right?
Absolutely. We get calls a lot from homeowners who are looking for legal help because they don't like their board. And the first question we always ask is, have you run and will you run? And when they say no, we say, well, I'm sorry, we can't help you. If you're just going to sit back and complain, that's just not the kind of client we want. Yeah.
Oh, you are so right. Well, I'm curious because you get a lot of phone calls. What is probably the number one question that you get from residents and the number one question you get from board members?
The number one question we get from homeowners is definitely, can they make me pay this money? And the answer is yes, they can. I think this goes back to how people buy houses. really seem to pay too much attention to what's happening during the closing process. And so we'll ask questions. Well, you got a title commitment, right? Your title commitment told you that there were deed restrictions. Did you read them? Did you understand that by purchasing, you were agreeing to be in an HOA, to having a lien on your property to secure the payment of assessments? How do you think that swimming pool in your community is paid for? And what we find is people just aren't paying attention. They don't understand what they're getting, and they don't understand how it's funded. So when we get those calls, we try to just explain and try to get them to understand that they get a lot of amenities and they get a lot of value, even in a community that doesn't have a swimming pool or sports courts. In a well-run HOA, you're going to see higher property values just by virtue of the maintenance obligations and the standards that should be enforced. From a board member perspective, the question we seem to get a lot is, unfortunately, how do I deal with this homeowner who keeps threatening? We're getting a lot of, and that just kind of goes back to managing personalities. But the one we're seeing more and more that's really concerning to us is the number of communities that are being impacted by cyber attacks. And in the last few weeks, we have gotten many calls from boards and from people we don't represent yet saying, our management company sent money to a hacker because somebody, a vendor, got hacked, sent payment instructions to the management company to a new bank account, and the money left. And that's a new one. It's an increasingly common one, and it's just one more thing that is impacting community association law and how we manage risk, how we evaluate and negotiate management contracts, and how we ensure that the people involved in running these communities are aware of this new risk. So every day is a little bit different, but this is an increasingly common one. But I would say most of our day-to-day is kind of just spent telling people how to deal with difficult personalities and trying to work through disputes that don't necessarily need to go in front of a judge, but nevertheless have a real impact on people's lives.
Wow, Shannon, that actually happened to me. I got this notice online that if I didn't pay $40,000 that they were going to wipe out. And my content is so important to me. But what I learned from it is, and I didn't even have a backup. And that's what I learned out of it, that you got to have a memory stick to save your information. But it's amazing what the evil that goes on the internet out there.
Oh yeah, we've seen massive losses for some of our communities as a result of this type of stuff. But it's all
one of the other things I noticed, Shannon, God, 10, 12, 13, 14 years ago, the biggest question was about pets. But I never hear anything anymore about pets.
No, we occasionally have some pet issues. We're dealing with one right now. A tenant in one of our communities allowed their dog to get loose. The dog killed another dog, bit a couple people. Texas law is not awesome when it comes to dog bites, but it's become, I wouldn't say routine and commonplace, but our ability to respond to that is pretty standard at this point. We don't run into too many pet issues. It's definitely, we're definitely seeing more issues in just interpersonal conflicts, which I think is probably a function of just changes in the economy. When people get financially stressed, they act out in various ways. And then the way technology is really starting to impact our communities with the hacking and also with AI. And what we are also seeing, of course, there's a lot of AI generated letters from homeowners raising complaints or making demands. And unfortunately, for the most part, the AI has not really caught up with reality. It's not super helpful, but it's a big distraction.
In Florida, I wanted to touch on this because somebody wrote me the other day from Sugarland, and it's got to be a condo, because they said, why do I have to pay when a first floor condo is flooded out, that we all have to pay for that? Do you get that?
We do. Condos are a totally different way of living. And we spend a lot of time trying to educate homeowners and boards on the answer to exactly that question. With a condo, you as an owner in a condo have an ownership interest in the entire property, in everyone's roof, everyone's foundation, everyone's siding. And that collective ownership means that, yes, when one unit floods, we all pay for it. But also when your roof leaks on the second floor, we all pay for it. If there were a fire, it would all be covered. And importantly, one of the major expenses, especially here in the Gulf Coast, and I'm sure also in Florida, is insurance. And the collective ownership structure of condos means that very expensive insurance premium is also shared, so the benefits of it are as well.
Shannon, is there a guideline as to what an association can charge if assessments aren't paid?
There's nothing hard and fast. A lot of that goes back to your governing documents. So if somebody doesn't pay their assessments, they should look in the governing documents and see if there's any limitations. But broadly under Texas law, you can be charged a host of expenses, late fees, interest, and cost of collection. You can be charged for the letters that come to you asking you to pay. You can be charged all of the legal fees that are incurred if that account is referred to legal. And what might have been a $500 or $600 assessment bill can rapidly become a thousands of dollars problem. But in Texas, nothing can escalate that quickly without notice. And so we strongly, strongly encourage all owners to maintain a good mailing address with their HOAs and open the mail. You have to look at it because these letters make a big difference. And, lawyers generally only have to show that they mailed it. They don't have to show that you opened it. And once you've been put on notice, then all of those costs of collection follow. In condos, that can happen on a much more expedited basis, again, because of the way condos are operated and funded. And you can find yourself facing a huge bill very quickly if you refuse to pay these assessments.
Ooh, here's a great text that just came in from Rosenberg. I really love your show. I'm a board member. I am curious as to, we're getting so many people complaining about assessments going up and if it's legal or not. How do I explain to them?
Yeah, well, the first place, of course, to look is your governing documents. Most of them are going to place a limit on how much assessments can go up without a vote of the membership. For a subdivision, typically we see in a 10 to 25% a year range. Condos have typically much more flexibility, again, because of the way they're funded and operate. But you start there. And what we strongly recommend to all of our boards is painful as it is, assessments should go up pretty much every year, at least by the rate of inflation, because that's what's really driving a lot of these questions we're getting from homeowners and boards right now, is as everything is getting more expensive, that flows into your assessments. We're seeing here that the cost of labor is going way up, particularly in the construction industry. The cost of materials are going up, and the cost of insurance luckily has stabilized, but is still much higher than it was just a few years ago. And all of those things together just make the cost of running your HOA higher, and the only way to run it is through assessments. We just try to educate owners. We work hard on messaging and explaining that these costs are important. These costs bear on your property value. And, when you think about it, having your own swimming pool and tennis court is a way more expensive proposition than paying $300 to $500 a year in assessments to have access to those types of things. And to ensure that your neighbors are living up to a certain standard that helps protect your property values as well. I mean, one thing we always say is everyone hates their HOA until the neighbor paints the house purple or the neighbor's kid takes up drums. Suddenly you're really happy to have some cover. And that's what assessments help pay for.
Here's a text from Bel Air. I really enjoy your show. Thank you so much for your great knowledge. I am curious, does your firm give second opinions?
Oh, sure. Yep. We get that request, not infrequently. It usually comes from a manager that we work closely with. But yeah, we absolutely give second opinions. I would say more often than not, we have a different opinion than the current lawyer. I think largely that's driven by the fact that we are still litigators at my firm. We don't just do HOA work, which I mean, at its very base, is really just about us, collecting some debt, assessment collections, and writing some policies. But when it comes to real disputes, if you're not comfortable and familiar with the litigation process, and you don't stand up and make argument in court very often, then I think it influences the way you advise your boards. Because we have a lot of litigation experience and we're in court all the time and we're making arguments and picking juries, that influences the way we look at things and how we evaluate risk and benefits for our clients. So we're always happy to provide second opinions. We work fast, we work efficiently, and we do our best to keep costs as low as possible when we're asked to do that.
Shannon, some of the emails we get are people complaining, board members complaining how long it takes for the attorney to get back with them.
Sure.
Can we talk about customer service with your company, your firm?
Sure. I would love to say that we're able to turn things around immediately.
Yes.
Like all of my colleagues in this area, unfortunately, we're not, and we've been increasingly busy over the last year or so. But we work hard to focus on customer service, and on the front lines for us, that means answering the phones. We don't have a phone tree. We don't have a virtual receptionist. When the phone rings here, it's going to get answered by someone who works here and whose goal is going to be to solve your problem. When the phone isn't answered, it's because everyone in the office is on the phone. And we find that alone makes a huge difference. Just being responsive and making clear that you can talk to someone when you need to talk to somebody. From a turnaround time with boards, I confess, we're less quick than we used to be. And I've been working around the clock to make that better. It's certainly a goal of ours to flip things around very quickly. But we're not talking about months, we're talking about days or weeks, but it is challenging. And with HOA, a lot of things happen in fits and spurts. Towards the last quarter of the year, it's annual meeting time, and we could find ourselves at a meeting every night, 4 nights a week. And so, what we always try to do is set expectations and manage those and explain, like, this is what we think it will take, this is how much time we think it'll take, and we'll do our very best to fulfill that. But in the meantime, call, someone will answer the phone and talk to you. And for our boards, what we find is really good about that is that when homeowners call, they don't have a horrible experience. They are able to talk to someone. They should get off the phone with next steps in mind if their matter hasn't been resolved altogether. And we find that when homeowners have a good experience in a bad situation, they're more likely to be supportive of the board, which promotes stability, which of course is what we always like to see, stability and calm in these communities.
Shannon, we're almost in April now, and God, hurricane season's right around the corner. Do you instruct your board members before hurricane season starts?
We do. We talk a lot to managers as well. I don't know that it's necessarily driven by the beginning of hurricane season, as it's just more generally a conversation about insurance and risk management. So, as our communities are renewing insurance, we want to make sure that they're working with good independent brokers, that their insurance is really being shopped. Some management companies have a relationship, if not an actual insurance agency within their umbrella, which can be fine, but can also mean you're not getting the best options and the best pricing. And so we strongly encourage all of our boards to make sure that they're using independent brokers who are going out to the market and making sure that you are getting the best options available, especially for condos where the market is very disrupted as a result of storms over the last few years in Texas. It can be challenging to get good insurance. And just accepting what the management company gives you may not give you the right coverage, the most blanket coverage, and certainly the best pricing. So we want that as an initial. And then when it comes to just preparing the community, as big things happen, as they're coming our way, we make sure to talk to managers, make sure they're communicating with boards and homeowners about things they can do to minimize potential losses. Again, particularly with our condos, where our associations and boards are going to be responsible for that roof that blows off or the flooding in one of the units.
Here's a question, seems like comes up a lot about Airbnbs.
Mm-hmm.
Person bought their house, they want to use as Airbnb. Can the HOA actually stop them?
Absolutely. We do a lot of Airbnb cases. Yes, they can absolutely stop it. Again, the first place to look is in your governing documents. Particularly with newer communities, we are seeing it written into almost every document that there'll be a minimum lease term of 6 to 12 months, which for all intents and purposes eliminates short-term rentals. Even if it's not in your documents can be amended. And it's the case in Texas that a place you bought with the intention of being a short-term rental, that you can lose that ability to do it if the association, if the members amend their documents to prohibit it. The fact that it was allowed at one point and isn't now is legal because documents and these declarations can be amended. Condos have broader rights to limit Airbnbs, and in a lot of cases, the board can do that on their own without a vote of the membership. So, I would tell most people, if you want to have a short-term rental, I would stay out of a deed-restricted community. They're very unpopular. They're generally pretty disruptive. And even if you're allowed to do it, because the deed restrictions don't prohibit it, or the amendments are, the community's too big to meaningfully amend their documents, what we find is that the disruptions caused by them lead to enforcement actions, fines, and a lot of other expenses that can really work against the profitability of a short-term rental. So if I were getting one, I wouldn't do it in a deed restricted community.
Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to put a smile on Shannon's face right now. Have you noticed how quick she is? She has no idea what the questions are, especially when you text them in, and she's right there. Can you imagine if you're a board member and you've got a question? I think I'd rather have Lang and Associates answering my questions. See, I told you I was going to put a smile on her face. Shannon, how do people reach your office?
Yeah, you can call us at 832-479-9400. We're here from 9 to 5. As I mentioned, we do answer the phones, and we have a website, shannonlanglaw.com. We used to have a way to contact us through the website, but we got overwhelmed with spam. So now we say, call us, we will answer the phone. We'll happily talk to you. And if I'm in the office and you're just a board member we don't represent, you have a question, you'll get through to me. I'm happy to talk to you.
And Shannon's with us every month. She'll be back in with us next month. Shannon, thank you so much. You're the best. Appreciate you. We'll see you next month. For sure. That's Shannon Lang and Associates. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.